I'm going to show you two neat dresses in this pattern. There's many options that you can choose from. The front of the dress might not be too surprising, but at the back, there's a really cool detail. Showing a little bit, but tastefully. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and I've sewn two wonderful neat dresses. They weren't difficult to sew, which means it didn't take too long for me to get these two dresses done. This is from Pattern Emporium and it's called Going Places Dress. I remember when this pattern was released and I really liked it back then. I got the pattern. This is a dress for knit fabric, super comfortable to wear. And there's quite a few options here, different silhouettes. But what they all have in common is that from the front, it looks like a sleeveless dress, like any sleeveless dress that you would ever see. But what you have at the back is wide straps. So the strap here is just longer and it goes all the way to the back. The back is straight, so you will be showing a little bit more skin at the back. It's still super bra friendly and you can wear your regular bra. You won't see any bra strap. Either the one at the bottom here or the one on the sides, it's all super well covered. There's a lot of necklines that you can choose from here. Two square necklines, one higher, one lower. They don't have the 90-degree angle. It's sort of rounded there, which means that the way that you finish it is easier. So no worries there. There's a boat neckline, which is the highest one. And then two rounded ones, a mid and a lower one. The mid is called a ballet and the lower one is called babe in this pattern. I think that's really cute. Now the bodice is fitted and then towards the bottom of the dress, you have two options. One is classic. It's just a straight skirt. You can make that up to your knee or you can add a flounce, which makes it hit below the knee. The other option is to sew a fit and flare dress. And you have more length options, knee, midi, and max. So the bodice is always going to fit the same. It's just the skirt that varies. You have two ways to finish this neckline and the straps and all of this area. One is binding. The other one is bands. I've chosen binding. I just like sewing binding and it was more appropriate for my fabric choices. You should know that this pattern is 50% off for a few hours. This sale ends noon on Saturday in Australia. In this area where I am, in Brazil at least, Friday night. That's when the sale ends. I'll leave you my affiliate link in the description box. Also, right at the top of the comment section, pinned, easy to find. Click there, it will take you directly to the website. If you end up purchasing after clicking on my link, I do receive a small commission back from the designer, but you don't pay anything extra. It's just one way you can support all the work that I do here on YouTube, producing all this sewing content. This is for knit fabric 100%. This will not work in a woven fabric. It won't fit. Goes on over your head. It's fitted, it needs to stretch. The minimum stretch you need horizontally is 30% and vertically 20%. Now, this is pretty strict if you want to make the fitted dress, the classic silhouette with the flounce. Otherwise it won't work. Now, if you have a fabric that stretches a little bit less vertically, you might get away with it if you make the fit and flare that has a little bit more ease and more volume at the skirt. So just think about that. If I'm going to wear a fitted dress, a fitted bodice, I always prefer the fabric to be medium weight because then you're less likely to see bra straps and lines and silhouettes and things like that most of us don't want to be seen. So if you use the lighter fabric like rayon spandex, bamboo spandex, modal spandex, it's not that you can't make the dress out of that. I would just wear a slip underneath or something just to avoid seeing those lines. For the fit and flare dress, I think drapier fabrics would work the best. I think a rayon French terry would be great, a sweater knit, a stretch velvet, something that has a bit of drape. Now, for the fitted silhouette with a flounce, then you can use more structured fabrics if you want. I think they're more appropriate, like cotton lycra or even Ponte Roma, Liverpool, something with a bit more structure. But then it's always up to you. I have made fit and flare dresses with Ponte Roma. It's just more dramatic. It just swishes out away from you a bit more and it's a bit more impactful. So it just depends on what you want. Now, I have chosen fabrics that I'm super happy with. I'm making a straight silhouette with the flounce at the bottom, and I've chosen Ponte Roma for that. And then for the fit and flare version, I've chosen a stretch velvet. That is so beautiful. The color, I really love it. And I did check that it stretched vertically because I have some stretch velvet in my stash that just stretches horizontally. So I'm quite limited in what I can make, but this one stretches amazingly everywhere. So that is really good. Now for my Ponte Roma version, I'm using the same fabric for the binding. I think it worked perfectly, but I did not want to do binding with the stretch velvet. It was curling. It would have been a nightmare. So I've chosen a contrasting athletic knit that has that leather look in pretty much the same color. and that worked amazingly. Whatever you choose for binding or bands, I think it has to stretch well and have good recovery. Something with at least 10% spandex, and you're going to be fine. So just so that your garment lasts and it doesn't start stretching out and deforming over time, as you know, when you wash it and things. So that's something to consider. Sizing for this pattern goes from 6 to 24 Australian, goes up to a 53.5-inch hip. You're meant to choose your size based on your high bust, and then you can check the other measurements. All my measurements fall within a size 16 at Pattern Emporium. At this point, you can see my size chart here, so it's quite easy for me to choose. I look at this bodice in a knit and it looks so short and small, but I know it's a knit, you know, there's vertical stretch. Don't get hung up on how the pattern looks. It's usually okay. You know, you have the weight of the skirt bringing all that down, and the waist hits exactly at my waist, even though I'm taller. So if you're shorter than me, I highly doubt that you have to make any length adjustments around the waist or bodice area. I would just go with it and you will be really, really happy. I have made no fitting adjustments for mine. I've made it just as is. The only change I made to my classic silhouette with a flounce was make it a little bit shorter. I did not want this flounce to hit right below the knee. That's a length I really struggle with. I just don't feel myself. It's just not me. So I wanted mine mid-knee-ish like that. So on the skirt portion, I just shortened it by 2.5 inches. I kept the flounce the same. It all fit at the bottom just fine. And I have a dress that I'm happy with the length. My fit and flare version, I chose the knee length version, but I made it 1 inch longer just because I'm a little bit taller and I'm really happy with the length there. But I wouldn't consider those fitting adjustments. They're just length preferences, I suppose. I'm going to show you a lot of the sewing, focusing on that strap and how I'm finishing the binding. I've done binding for both of mine. I haven't done bands. I will explain a little change I made with the pattern piece that I chose to do my binding, but it's very achievable. And I'm not going to lie, it does take a while to do the binding. All the general steps are really fast, but I think that section deserves a bit of your patience because it's so nice to have a binding that looks amazing. And that just takes a little bit longer, but it's really, really worth it. I'm not talking about hours here. I'm just saying it's not going to take you 5 minutes to do. So let's This is Ponte Roma for my Going Places dress from Pattern Emporium, and I'll show you the pieces. This is the front. It's cut on the fold. I've got the high square neckline right here. There's a lower one. There's rounded versions. Choose what you like. This is a strap, and this is a continuation of the strap. This is an option to save fabric, so this would be sewn here on the top, and it would be a really long strap. If you have excessive amounts of fabric, you can cut it in one piece and not have that little seam there. This is the back. This is not cut on the fold. This has back shaping right there. There's going to be a center back seam. So I suggest you don't eliminate it. It's going to fit amazing with it. And you can see this is shorter here on the side seams. The back is just straight. We don't have this type of situation here because it's this long strap right here that's going to finish there. I'm going to use binding for mine. This shorter binding is the one that does the neckline. That longer binding there is the one that does the back and the straps. When you cut these, you need to make sure the stretch is going this way. This is the flounce at the bottom. I'm using that option because I love a flounce and it's just one piece. This part on the fold is going to be here on the center front where it's on the fold, and there's going to be a center back seam on the flounce that's going to match the center back seam of the dress right there. You can make an option without the flounce if you want. This would just be longer and it would just be a classic fit, like a fitted straight dress. But I love this. It's going to go all the way around. This is another version of the Going Places dress. This time I'm using stretch velvet in this beautiful green color. I'm using the fit and flare option. You use the same bodice piece basically, and then you just swap out the skirt. So you just join those pattern pieces together and then it goes in at the waist and it just flares out hanging from the table right here. This is the front, that's the back. I'm going to use the same high square neckline because I just think that's unique and pretty, and you know, the typical is a rounded. I want to do something different. I've got my extra strap here that I'm going to sew on the top, and my binding pieces. This is for the front neckline and that is for the back. I'm using a contrast fabric. I don't want to deal with binding and stretch velvet. I think that would be a nightmare. So I'm using an athletic knit that looks like leather. It's a leather look, a little bit shiny, and it matches the green. So that's going to make my life easier. And it's also going to give you a nice contrast binding that I think is going to look really pretty. The general steps for this dress are pretty simple. I'm going to press these seams open because I'm working with a Ponte Roma. It's quite structured and heavy. So I've serged all the side seams already, the same for the back and the center back. And now I'm going to attach that second piece of the strap. So you see you have a pointy area. That's not what we need to attach here. Over here we have a flatter area. So that is the section that goes sewn on here. And you can see a little mark there. So this side goes here, right sides together, there's the mark, and there's the mark on the other side. That's how we're going to get them placed properly. Again, if you have a lot of fabric, you don't have to do this. You can cut this all in one go. So I'm just going to sew these with a 1/4-inch seam allowance on the sewing machine. I'm going to press it open. I'm not going to worry about finishing these edges. It's a knit, it's not going to unravel, and they'll be partially covered with the binding that we add on later. All the seams that you're going to see me do with the sewing machine are a narrow zigzag, which allows stretch. I'm sewing the center back seam. Again, I'm doing it with my sewing machine because I want to press the seam flat and open. I've already serged all these edges. If you're working with a different type of knit, you can do this straight on the serger with a 1/4-inch seam allowance. But because I knew my seam allowance is going to be a little bit bigger than that, I just cut my pattern piece a smidge bigger, about 1/8 of an inch on the edge. It's going to turn out the same fit in the end. Okay, after sewing that center back seam, I have aligned the front and the back right sides together. The front is the one with the super long straps. And here's the back, and I've just matched up the side seams. They follow the same shape. I've also serged these, and I'm going to sew them in the exact same way. Narrow zigzag, slightly over a 1/4-inch seam allowance, just the edge of my regular presser foot. And I did cut a little wider to allow for that. Given my seams a good press, now I'm going to do the back. I'm going to do the back binding, and this includes all the back and this section of the strap right here. So it's a quite long piece that we cut here. I have a pin in the center back that I'm going to match up with the center back seam right here. And then we have a series of marks on the binding piece and along the edge. The next line is going to match the side seam. I have a little line right there, so I'm going to match that up. Next, we have a line that matches the front armhole. So those will match up. And the binding is shorter than what we are pinning it to underneath in all of these sections, but in sort of different amounts. This little line here is going to match that seam that we had done for the strap. And then this is going to go all the way to the bottom, to the edge of the strap over here. So that's one side. I'm going to finish pinning the same thing on this other side like that. And then I'm going to sew it together. You can use the serger to sew your binding on, but because my fabric is already heavy, I don't want to add the bulk of the serger thread in there. So I'm going to sew it on the sewing machine with a narrow zigzag and my 1/4-inch presser foot. So remember, this binding is sort of 1-to-1 in some of the sections, and in others you need to stretch too much underneath. Along the front armhole, the binding is going to be shorter, so it brings it close to the body. You can see there. I have to stretch it a little to match underneath. We're just stretching the binding, not the garment underneath. There's another little mark on the armhole, and towards the side seam, we're also stretching here. On this back section that's pretty straight, we also need to stretch it, but it's not that much like it was in the armhole. And here I'm at the center, so I'm basically repeating the same thing, just all the way to the other side. You can see that the other side that's here, I had serged it, and it's because now when we flip this to the other side, if you hadn't done anything to it, it would be left raw. And I like finishing my edges, it just looks neater. Now basically what we need to do is just take the binding and wrap it around the seam allowance. And then we're going to sew it and catch it from the back. So if I pin it here, we've got a little bit to catch on the other side. This dress has two options to finish this. One is binding, one is a band. The band is like sewing a neckband. Pretend this is the band. You would fold it like that lengthwise, wrong sides together, and divide it and match up the same reference points, and that's the finish. Or you can do the binding. I'm doing the binding, but I use the pattern piece for the band. That's a little bit wider. And the reason I'm doing that is because my fabric is heavy. The fabric, when it's heavy, just in itself, when you fold onto itself, it just takes up space. And so I thought I was going to have a little bit more space to wiggle around the binding to this side if I use the band piece. But that's just something I'm doing. If this was an ITY or a rayon spandex, it would be okay if this was a little narrower. So that's something different, but the length of the band and the binding is the same. The marks, everything is the same. It's just a tiny bit wider. So I'm going to take my time to take this binding, wrap it around the seam allowance like this, fold it back. I'm going to catch it in place all the way around, and then we top stitch. What I'm going to do is stitch in the ditch. That's my preferred method. I'm going to sew right in there. It'll be pretty much unseen and it'll be super neat. I've got the binding pinned, wrapped around, comes at the back here. And because this is a structured fabric, easy to work with, I'm not going to hand baste. I have hand basted in the past, and I'm using my regular presser foot. I'm just going slowly and stitching right into that seam. I've got a narrow zigzag and it's a pretty long seam. And because it's a narrow zigzag, this will allow you to take on your dress and off without the stitches popping, because a narrow zigzag is a stretch stitch. Okay, so the binding is done on the outer edges, the armhole going along all the back, that's straight, but we still have this neckline. So it's basically this really long type of neckline, but it's partially a strap. So it's the same on the wrong side. There are several marks. There's one here, one there around the rounded area. I've got one in the center, and all those same marks are on the binding piece. So it's the same. I'm going to bring this over. I've got my pin in the center front, and I do have a mark on the center front. You're supposed to mark that. So that goes there. The next little line will match the next line here along the corner of this square neckline. It's not actually square. It's not a 90-degree angle over here. You can see it's rounded, which makes it easier. And then the next little line on the binding matches the one at the back. So in this section, it's slightly shorter, as you can see. Then we have one that's going to match the seam if you've done the seam. If not, there's a little mark on the pattern. And then the rest is pretty much 1-to-1. Now the process will be exactly the same as what you saw me do here. I'm just going to show you in this area where there's that curve. It's going to look super neat. It's going to be really, really nice. It's going to look like that. So I'm not going to film everything all over again. Just know that I'm going to do the exact same thing. There is a reference where to place them, and I place them there, and it's perfect. Covers my bra strap super well. So all I have to do now is top stitch this down. I'm leaving the flounce for the very last step because it'll create weight on the dress if you do it ahead of time and there's no need to do it. So this is the bottom of the dress. I've got them right sides together. I have already sewn the seam I've even hemmed it already. So the back seam matches the center back of the dress right here. So you can see those are matching. I had marked the center fronts with a little pen on both and then just matched all the rest. It fits 1-to-1. And then all I'm going to do is serge it together. This is the one that you saw in the tutorial. I love this print in Ponte. It's got a lot of teal in there. I remember I don't have many garments in teal. I have a linen skirt. I have a blouse. Anyway, I have these amazing shoes that need something. So I decided to go with this one. It's really nice. Here is my rounded square neckline. It's rounded here, but when you see it on, it looks squared. This is the high. I think if I'd done the low, I would be showing this part of my bra a little bit. It just depends on everyone and how they wear their bra, the type. But for me, at least, this is the lowest I would go with the square neckline. If you're concerned, I would suggest the high square neckline, not the low one. Just my opinion here. I think the cover under the armholes is really good. And these are the straps at the back. It's pretty much straight here. You're going to see the bra strap that goes horizontally is not seen. Neither are these. It's all super good. And it's a really nice technique, stitch in the ditch, like I showed you. I love it because it just turns out so, so neat. It's amazing. You can't even see the stitch. And in this print, much less even. Regular side seams, the flounce at the bottom. I sewed it directly on the serger, just kept that seam allowance like it was. You saw that for the other ones, I opted to do them on the sewing machine just because of my fabric choice. So I have seams that have been pressed open and serged. There is my little hem. It's quite curved, so I kept the hem at 5/8 just to make it easier. My seam at the back is pressed open. This gives lovely shaping. Don't get rid of that seam. Now I am fighting sunset here. Sunset in the winter by the way, is really early, around 5:10 p.m. You're going to see these modeled just on their own with shoes. I didn't have time to model more outfits with jackets, but I can certainly dress these down. I just opted to dress them up with nice heels because I love that. So this is my first Going Places dress from Pattern Emporium. I've got a straight skirt option with the flounce at the bottom. Lovely. I made a size 16. The only change I made was to make the skirt a little bit shorter so that the flounce wouldn't hit below my knees, 2.5 inches shorter. The back has the straps as you can see, but from the front it just looks like a regular sleeveless dress. It's really nice. This is a Ponte Roma. I love the print. It's just amazing and I didn't really need to match anything up. There is a center back seam which improves the fit at the back. It's a fitted bodice, but I still have a little bit of ease on my dress. I don't feel it's skin tight, and I've chosen the high square neckline, which is super nice. I've done the finishing of the neckline and the straps with binding. You can also use bands. It took a little while to do, but it's so worth it. It's so neat and it's such a pretty dress. I love the wide straps and that you can't see your bra at all. Very bra friendly, so I don't have to worry about that. And I consider this being tastefully covered. I'm really comfortable with this amount of skin showing at the back. I love the teal here, which is not a common color for me, but I found this print and was inspired to sew it. And I love this dress. Can't wait to wear it out. Super gorgeous and it's super comfortable. The second one, I filmed it off camera. There was nothing different. The only difference was the silhouette that was more A-lined, fit and flare, but it was just the same construction as the other one, minus the flounce. And check out this green stretch velvet. It's amazing. I love it. I did the same binding in that leather look jersey that I have in many colors, and it was really nice. Same stitch in the ditch technique. Looks really, really nice. That's how it looks like on the back. Now, remember with this type of fabric, you have to cut all the pieces in the same direction. What I do with velvet, I drape it on myself in the mirror and I look for the one that looks the nicest. I like it when the light hits it, that it looks the darkest, and that's how I cut it. Now, let me show you this upside down. If I put this way, it looks way lighter. I don't like that. So just choose what you like. I don't think there's a rule. I don't think if someone tells you, you know, the direction has to go this way or that way, I don't care. I just care about how it looks and I choose the side that looks the nicest. So yeah, in this case, it's really rough. If you put your hand going down, the nappy is going this way. So that's just what I like. Lovely. I've done a simple hem with a shallow zigzag. You can barely see it. I did the same type of seams inside, serged first, sewed with the sewing machine afterwards and pressed open. These are medium weight fabrics and I just prefer that. I know a lot of you would love to do it on the serger. I say go ahead. This is just my preference because I'm filming my sewing. I show you what I like. Then, you know, you are always able to choose how you like to sew. And the important thing is that you're happy. I know that when I sew something in the way that I don't like to sew, I feel really unhappy and I do not enjoy that. So sew in the way that makes you happy and that you're happy with the results. And that's always going to be a great experience for you. I just happened to film the way I like to sew and share that with you. You can agree, you can disagree, it's all good. Anyway, this is amazing. I love the length. This is my second Going Places dress from Pattern Emporium, same size 16, only this time it's a fit and flare option. Lovely stretch velvet in green. It's just so amazing. I love how the light shines on it and you get all this texture. Super, super lovely. I love it with the heels. And this one has more volume at the bottom, of course, but the bodice continues to be nice and fitted. Center back seam is really, really good. It really fits amazingly at the back. You see there's no excess fabric there. I love that it's there. And this stretch velvet, as you can see, is quite drapey, which matches the silhouette perfectly. I've used a leather look jersey athletic knit to do the binding, and it's a very similar color. I thought it was going to look cool, but also was going to be easier to manage than trying to do binding with this stretch velvet that was very slippery. It would have been a nightmare. So I'm really happy to combine these. This could be a party dress. I don't go to parties. I don't think it's that fancy, but it's a very different dress to the others that I have, and I love it so much. I've kept the high square neckline. I think the low square neckline would be a bit too revealing for me, at least for what I prefer, and I'm very happy. There are rounded neckline options. There's a boat neckline option that's higher. There's a lot of options, but you always get this beautiful back detail with the straps. Super nice. Loved sewing this one. Now, I don't go to parties, but if I had to go to one, I would wear this. So easy. I love it. It's really simple. If I ever had to dress up for a party, I would be the one wearing the most simple dress because that's just the way I vibe. So I have a party dress, but it doesn't have to be. I could wear this wherever. I could dress it down. I can imagine this with black tights and black boots and a black jacket and a colorful scarf for winter, because you know winter doesn't get too cold, and that's all I would need, a jacket. And it would be fine if I'm like uncovered under the jacket, but this is so nice. And this one's amazing as well. I'm going to be able to wear my beautiful teal shoes that have nothing to wear with, and it's just amazing. I think Kate knocked it out of the park with this dress because it's really unique. You're so well covered in the front, but then there's that sneaky detail at the back that you show a little bit more skin, but you're not actually showing much. You know, showing a little bit of the back is okay. In my eyes, it's okay. You know, I'm quite modest, but I'm really, really happy with this. I love that you can wear your regular bra and you don't have to worry about anything. That's what I think this dress does. And I'm very, very happy to have them. Remember, it's 50% off. That's all from me. I'll see you soon on this channel with more sewing content. Bye.